airport was chaos, the kind of chaos Emma Lewis had grown used to. Her flight had been delayed for 2 hours, her phone was at 3% battery, and her stomach was growling after surviving on vending machine snacks. She clutched her boarding pass like it was a lifeline, weaving through the sea of travelers. When the luggage carousel finally began moving, the crowd surged forward. Suitcases in every shape and color rolled by. But Emma's eyes were fixed on one particular black suitcase, simple, medium-sized, with a silver tag on the handle. She spotted it, grabbed it quickly before someone else could, and sighed in relief. This day can finally end, she muttered to herself. Outside, rain poured over the parking lot as she struggled to find a cab. Her cheap umbrella flipped backward in the wind, soaking her through. By the time she reached her small apartment, she looked like she'd been through a storm, which, technically, she had. Kicking off her wet shoes, she dragged the suitcase into her living room and dropped to her knees. "Let's hope my clothes survive the trip," she said, unzipping it. But the moment she saw what was inside, her heart stopped. No dresses, no sneakers, no sketchbook. Instead, crisp men's suits neatly folded, a pair of polished shoes, a sleek silver laptop, and a thick leather folder stamped, "Confidential, Blake Industries." Emma froze. "Oh no, I didn't." Her pulse quickened. I did. I took the wrong bag." For a full minute she just sat there, staring in disbelief. She replayed the moment at the airport. Dozens of identical black suitcases rolling by, her rushing, her half-dead phone, her total exhaustion. Of course this would happen to her. Panicking, she checked for any ID or phone number inside, but everything screamed private. Whoever this Blake Industries person was, he clearly didn't want strangers snooping in his belongings. Great, she sighed. I've stolen from a millionaire. She grabbed her phone to search online for the company name, but the screen went dark. Dead battery. Perfect timing, she muttered, frustration bubbling up. Just then her phone vibrated faintly, one last breath before dying. An unknown number flashed on the screen. Against her better judgment, she swiped to answer. "Hello?" she whispered. A deep, calm voice replied, "Miss Lewis, I believe you have something that belongs to me." Emma's blood ran cold. How do you know my name?" The voice chuckled softly. "Let's just say, my suitcase has a way of finding me." The next morning, Emma's nerves were a storm inside her chest. She'd barely slept, replaying that mysterious call over and over. The man's voice had been calm but commanding, the kind of tone that belonged to someone used to being obeyed. Now, as she stood outside the glass doors of the Regal Crown Hotel, clutching the suitcase in her trembling hands, she wondered what kind of trouble she was walking into. The hotel lobby was like another world. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, soft piano music in the background. People in expensive suits walked with the air of confidence she'd never had. Emma caught her reflection in the mirror, her simple blouse, nervous eyes, and frizzy hair that refused to behave. "You don't belong here," she whispered to herself. But it was too late to turn back. "Miss Emma Lewis?" the polite receptionist asked. "Yes," Emma stammered. "I'm here to return a suitcase to Mr. Blake Carter is expecting you." "This way, please." Her breath caught. Blake Carter, the name sounded familiar. She'd heard it somewhere before, maybe in business news, or those glossy magazines at the grocery store. She followed the receptionist through the quiet lounge until she saw him. Blake Carter sat by the window, sunlight outlining his sharp jaw and broad shoulders. He looked up from his tablet, his deep grey eyes meeting hers with quiet amusement. He stood as she approached, tall, composed, and every bit the powerful CEO she'd imagined. "You caused quite a stir, miss," he said, extending a hand. Emma Lewis," she replied, shaking it awkwardly. "I'm so sorry for the mix-up. I didn't mean—" He raised a hand, stopping her mid-sentence, a teasing smirk on his face. "Relax, you're not under arrest." "Though my security team had quite the morning tracking you down," Emma flushed. "Oh, wonderful. I'm officially the world's most wanted luggage thief," Blake chuckled, the first sign of warmth breaking through his cool exterior. "Not quite. But I am curious, how did you mistake a CEO's bag for yours?" She glanced at the identical suitcase beside his chair. Well, I guess we both shop at Black Standard. Same model, same size, just minus the billion-dollar contents. That earned her a genuine laugh, low and rich, echoing in the quiet lounge. Emma couldn't help smiling despite her nerves. As she handed him the suitcase, their fingers brushed briefly, just a moment, but something sparked. Blake noticed it too. "Next time," he said, still smiling, "double-check the tag, Miss Lewis. You never know whose life you might be walking into." Emma swallowed hard. Maybe that's not always a bad thing. A week had passed since Emma's unforgettable meeting with Blake Carter. She had returned to her ordinary routine, sketching designs in her small apartment, doing part-time work at a local cafe, and trying not to think about the charming CEO who had somehow made her feel seen in a single conversation. But that quiet morning, her phone rang again. Miss Emma Lewis, a woman's polite voice asked. "Yes, this is she. I'm calling from Blake Industries. Mr. Carter would like to meet with you again." He said, "It's regarding a proposal." Emma's heart skipped. A proposal? Her mind raced. Was she in trouble? Did he want her to pay for something she broke? Or worse, did he somehow think she'd snooped through his things? By the time she reached the towering glass building of Blake Industries, her nerves were a tangled knot. The receptionist recognized her instantly. "Mr. Carter is waiting in his office, Miss Lewis." As the elevator rose, she caught a glimpse of herself in the mirrored wall. Plain blouse, second-hand handbag, wide, anxious eyes. "You can do this," she whispered. The doors opened to a sleek office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Blake stood near the desk, his suit crisp, his expression unreadable. "Miss Lewis," he greeted with a half-smile. "You came." "Well, I wasn't sure if I had a choice," she said nervously, clutching her bag. He chuckled softly. "Relax, this isn't an interrogation." She sat down, fidgeting. "Then what's this about?" Blake reached into his drawer and pulled out a folder, the same leather one she remembered from the suitcase. He opened it carefully, revealing a sheet of paper inside. But instead of corporate documents, it was one of her sketches, a detailed drawing of a city skyline with soft pencil shading and subtle color highlights. Emma gasped. "That's mine." "Oh no, I must have left my sketchbook." "You did," Blake said gently. "And I'm glad you did. I was impressed, Emma. You have real talent." She blinked, unsure what to say. "I'm organizing a charity gala for children's art education," he continued. "I want the event to have a fresh, emotional touch, something authentic. I think you could bring that. Would you consider designing for it?" Emma's mouth fell open. "You mean you're offering me a job?" He smiled, not the corporate, confident smile she'd seen before, but a genuine one that reached his eyes. "Let's just call it destiny," he said softly. "Delivered by misplaced luggage." For the first time in a long while, Emma felt her world shift, like fate had decided to take her hand. Weeks turned into months, and Emma's life began to look nothing like the one she had before, that fateful airport mix-up. Days at Blake Industries were long but fulfilling. Emma worked closely with Blake on the upcoming charity gala, designing banners, stage layouts, and emotional visual concepts that captured the spirit of hope. What started as professional collaboration slowly grew into something far more personal. Late nights in the office turned into shared laughter over cold pizza and coffee. Blake would often lean on her desk, watching her sketch. "You know," he'd tease, "you're the only person in this company who makes chaos look beautiful." She'd blush, pretending to focus on her work. "And you're the only CEO who stays past midnight for charity banners." Sometimes their hands brushed when reaching for the same pen. Sometimes their eyes lingered a moment too long. But neither of them said it aloud. The unspoken connection between them was fragile, like the calm before a confession. Finally, the night of the grand charity gala arrived. The ballroom shimmered with soft gold light, crystal chandeliers, and elegant guests dressed in their best. Emma stood backstage, her heart pounding as she watched the crowd applaud the opening speech. Blake stood on stage, confident as ever, thanking everyone who had contributed, especially the creative heart behind this event, Miss Emma Lewis. The audience clapped. Emma's cheeks flushed with pride and disbelief. After the event, when the hall had quieted and guests began to leave, she stepped outside to breathe. The night air was cool and calm, carrying the soft hum of city traffic. That's when she heard footsteps behind her. Blake was there. No tie, no crowd, just him and his warm smile. In his hand, he carried something familiar, her old worn suitcase. Emma blinked.
You still have that?
Blake nodded. Of course. It started everything. He stepped closer, placing the suitcase gently on the ground. You know, he said softly, eyes locked on hers, that mix-up was the best mistake of my life. He opened the suitcase, and inside was a small velvet box. Her breath caught as he knelt before her, the city lights glimmering behind them. Emma Lewis, he said, his voice steady but full of feeling, will you let me be the right man in your life? After all that wrong luggage? Tears filled her eyes as her hands trembled. She nodded, whispering through her smile, yes, 1,000 times yes. Blake slipped the ring onto her finger and stood, pulling her into an embrace that felt like home. The wrong luggage had led her to the right love.